I'm here with Rae Missigman, and you brought what I think is probably the most amazing book, journal, clipboard thing, I don't know what to call it, that I've ever seen.
It's what I use for my travel journal, and I like it because it has a hard surface by using the pressboard or the clipboards. So we're gonna make this with 2 super easy steps, and then you can choose how you fill it yourself.
Awesome, so let's get started.
Okay, so the first thing you'll wanna do is get a little bit of the housework out of the way. You'll wanna trim a piece of chipboard or recycled cardboard, and you can do that on a cutting machine to about a 1/2 inch wide. You'll just need 1 strip of that. And then you'll also want to find 2 clipboards. You can use 2 small ones, like you find in the office supply store, or for this one, I actually used a big one and cut it in half with a saw.
I was going to say, how did you cut a clipboard in half?
Yeah, I left it in the
tools.
power tools, exactly.
There you go.
So, and then we're going to need a couple borders that we're going to cut on the cutting machine.
Okay, so I'm just going to grab one of the borders from the built-in designs here. Does it need to be any particular size?
Now you'll want to gauge that according to what clipboard you use, but you'll want it to be about 1.5 inches or 2 inches longer than your actual clipboard.
Okay.
So maybe 10 inches.
Okay, so
by 2 inches wide.
About 10 inches. Here we go. And if I want to make it 2 inches wide, I can actually just turn off the aspect ratio and I can go ahead and make that up to 2. So then it's 2 by 10, and then I can rotate it because I know we were talking about height and width, and that's not, it was the opposite way.
Right.
There you go. So I know we want 2 of them, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on. And now I'm going to be okay and ready to cut. Now I already did a test cut on our electronic cutter, so I know exactly what the settings are. But of course, you could use scissors to cut this out. If you had a die, if you had a punch, if you know, whatever it is.
The key is making sure it's wide enough, because if you don't have enough width, you're not going to get enough sticking power on either side of your clipboard, and then your book is going to fall apart. So you want it to overlap, right?
So that's why we actually had to turn off the aspect ratio to make it that 2 inches.
Right.
Because otherwise, now even if you had big clipboards, would you still make it 2 inches, or is that particular to the small pieces?
No, I think it depends too on how far you want your edging. This one I didn't use a pretty border on, so I didn't want as much to show, so I didn't have it as wide. The main thing is getting enough on the ends as it curls over, and just enough on the edges to keep it holding in. So then what you'll want to do...
By the way, we haven't even talked about, what are we cutting this out of?
We're cutting this out of, that would be nice.
Is it paper?
No.
Is it, no?
We're using a canvas material that has an adhesive back on it.
And so what we actually had to do is something that is called a kiss cut, because this is going to pull off in a single piece, and you're going to say, hey, Julie, that isn't cut. And I'm going to be like, Rae, I got you. Relax. And the answer is because we kiss cut it. And can you explain to people what kiss cutting is?
It's basically cutting the top layer, correct? So that you can just pull the top layer off and leave the whatever
it is, a sticker sheet.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We leave the sticker sheet intact, and now you've got essentially what is a canvas sticker. Can I give that to you?
And what I like to do is, if you have a glass mat or some sort of silicone mat to lay down, it just helps in case this does a flip on you and wants to move around. So I lay the first border face up, sticky side, face up. And I'm an eyeballer, so I'm just gonna eyeball my chipboard piece here and put it down right in the middle, leaving enough on either end that I can pull that in on my clipboard. And then I like to position my clipboard so I have one of the bulky pieces at the top and one at the bottom. It just makes it nicer when it closes. And I'm gonna lay those right on top of the canvas as well, leaving just a very small, maybe 1/8 of an inch ditch
I was gonna say, I noticed you're leaving a gap.
Yeah, and that's so it can close it without any force and it doesn't pull that sticky stuff off. And you can use too, if you don't have an adhesive back canvas material, you could use duct tape. You can use bookbinding tape. You can use anything that's going to have some real sticking power. So for this one, you'll want to, and you have a choice. You can do this one first if you don't want any edges showing on the outside.
Right.
Or you can flip-flop it and make it so you don't have any
So I assume you need the second strip that I'm busy
and so now the next one will go right over the top. And I like to start on one end so that I can kind of line up. It's a little bit trickier when you have a scallop border, but you just want to make sure you get enough on either side.
And you're just smoothing it down, and you know...
You can use your fingernail or a bone folder, or if you have a ruler that has like a rounded beveled edge, you can get in, you want...
you want to stick it in the ditch.
In the ditch, you want those 2 adhesive pieces to really stick to each other nicely. Then you can come back over here and do this. so that your book opens and closes properly.
So that's, I mean, that's the really functional part of it, and that's why you're trying to stick those two halves together so that they work together.
And you can trim those if you want, or you can come back to the front side and smooth it all out. Now with this, because it's an adhesive backed canvas material, it's not as sticky as say duct tape or bookbinding tape, so you'll probably want to let it, you know, meld.
You know what I do? I just throw a little gel medium on top, and you know, everything sticks.
Before you get going. And so then now you have this great book that you can use for travel. You can punch holes in the spine, you can add signatures.
Why would you punch holes in the spine?
Well, for instance, I'm going to show you this one real quick. This one was made out of a larger clipboard that I cut in half with the power tool we talked about. I see,
so that's why the clip part is on the side instead of at the top.
Right. And then I've gone in and added a signature or a binding system out of these compressors. Wait a second, I've seen those at the office supply store. Correct.
And what do they look like when they're not actually in the book? Because I think you have one here.
Yep.
So can we put one of those into here so I can see how that works?
Absolutely, and it's called a fastener and a compressor. And what you do is you just, I have one here with holes already marked, so we're going to cheat a little bit. You'll want to use a heavy-duty punch. I've chosen to use small papers that are going to stay between these two pieces, so I'm going to need something with a deep reach too. And then
just line up your heavy-duty punch.
The nice part about this binding system is you're not forced to use any certain size paper.
I was also going to say the nice thing about this, you can just change stuff in and out as you want.
I love that.
There's no rules.
I'll fill all of these pages up and then I'll take them out and add new ones. So depending on what you want to show, I would take this and I'd start it from the outside and just feed these prongs through. And then I have some papers cut here just so I can show you how to add them. But now you'll have to know when you bind these, it's a little bit different spine. You'll have to gauge how wide you want it to be and create, you know, almost like a little fold.
So instead of folding it in half, you sort of fold it so that there is an existing spine in the pages.
Another little ditch of a sort, right? And then you can line them up and put them through the holes. And this piece goes right on top.
So let me finish that off for you, if you don't mind grabbing that other one that you have there to show us, because I know I'm just going to fold these in like so to fasten them.
So
that elastic, how did you attach that?
Okay, that's just a piece of elastic. Again, you can get them in an office supply store or something, and they have these little metal pieces on the end, and they will just feed through.
So I can see how you've attached it right here, is you've just put it right into the clipboard part there. Super easy. You've got your papers for collage, you've got your book together.
You can add some ribbon
to
the other
stencils, everything looks awesome. Thank you, Rae.